Dean, faculty, families, friends, and most importantly, the graduating class of INSEAD. It is a real honor to be here with you today. I graduated from INSEAD in December 1997. That was almost 30 years ago, although in my mind, it still feels like yesterday. Partly because INSEAD has that effect on you, and partly because I'm still in denial about my age and identify as being in my early 40s. When I arrived in Fontainebleau, I had already been a lawyer, I'd already worked in New York, I'd already decided that law was absolutely not for me. So like many people who are not entirely sure what to do with their lives, I did the sensible thing. I went to business school. I arrived at INSEAD with a plan. I was going to use the MBA to transition into investment banking, then private equity, then somehow I would build a successful career, make money, control my destiny, and avoid ever being again trapped in a job where I take instructions from people I thought were less intelligent than me. Some of you may recognize that last feeling, and if you do not, you will soon. But here's the truth. Almost none of my plan worked out the way I expected. Yes, I went into investment banking. I joined JP Morgan in London, then Morgan Stanley, then private equity. But the career I thought would define me did not. The jobs I thought would make me happy did not. The organizations I thought I wanted to belong to were in many ways the places where I felt most constrained. I had a plan, life had another. That is the first message I want to leave you with today. Do not spend too much time of your life trying to script the future. Plan, yes. Prepare, absolutely. Work harder than others, definitely. But do not fall in love with your plan. Because I can almost guarantee you that life will not unfold according to the presentation deck you have built in your head. And I'm grateful for that, because if life had followed my plan, I would never have built a global education group. I would never have had the privilege of working with extraordinary educators across the world. When I look back on my time at INSEAD, what I remember is not just the classes, the case studies, or the absurdly competitive people arguing as if the future of humanity depended on who had the better answer on a negotiation exercise. What I remember is that INSEAD was a turning point. It was not the destination, it was a bridge. And that is what today is for all of you. Today is not the end of your education. It is not the beginning of a perfectly organized career. It is not the point at which life suddenly becomes clear. Today is a bridge. You are leaving here with an extraordinary degree from an extraordinary institution, surrounded by people who will become friends, colleagues, investors, rivals, and occasionally people you will try very hard to avoid our reunions. You are leaving here with tools, but what matters now is not the tools. It is what you do with them when life becomes difficult, and it will. I do not say that to be dark, I say it because it is true. The vast majority of you will be tested. Some of you will be tested professionally, you will lose jobs, you will be rejected by investors, you will back the wrong idea, you will trust the wrong people, you will miss opportunities you should have taken, and take opportunities you should have avoided. Some of you will be tested personally. Relationships will break, families will suffer, your health or the health of people you love will fail. I truly hope none of you ever experience some of what I have experienced. But what will define you is not whether life tests you, it will. What will define you is how you stand back up. My own defining test came in January 2012, when my firstborn daughter, Lila, died of a rare and incurable brain cancer. She was 3 years old. I grew up in Lebanon during the Civil War. I saw bombings. I lived through foreign invasions. I knew what it meant to hear sniper fire, to pass militia checkpoints, to understand that kidnappings could happen, that buildings could disappear overnight, that a normal day could turn into tragedy without warning. I thought that growing up in a war-torn country had taught me something about fear, danger, and survival, but nothing, absolutely nothing, compares to watching your own child being slowly tortured to death by disease and being unable to do anything to save her. There's no framework for that. No amount of money, education, influence, discipline, or willpower can prepare you for holding your child in your arms and knowing that all your strength, all your intelligence, all your drive, and all your love are still not enough. That is when life strips you completely bare. That is when you discover that control is often an illusion. And that is when you learn that the real test of a human being is not what you achieve when life is generous, but whether you can stand back up when life has taken from you the one thing you thought you could never survive losing. After Lila died, I could very easily have called it a day. I was broken in a way that I cannot fully describe. I had no interest in money, prestige, success, titles, or anything that had once seemed important. But I got up the next day. Not because I was strong, not because I had some heroic reservoir of resilience, not because I had processed the grief. I had not. I got up because I had a one-year-old son, Zaid, who still needed his father. That is sometimes what resilience is. It is not a slogan. It is not a LinkedIn post. It's not a quote printed on a gym wall. Sometimes resilience is simply getting out of bed because someone needs you to. Sometimes it is doing the next thing even when the next thing feels impossible. Sometimes it is continuing to live when a big part of you has died. And the month after Lila's death, I returned to work. Not because work mattered more than grief, it did not, but because work gave structure to pain. Inspired Education Group was not some neat business strategy that came out of tragedy. I did not lose my daughter and then calmly sit down to write a plan. There was nothing neat about it. There was nothing strategic about grief. What happened was much more human than that. We all find ways to cope with pain. Some people talk, some people pray, some people withdraw, some people run, some people drink, some people break, some people heal slowly and quietly. My escape was building. Building gave my pain somewhere to go. It gave my mind somewhere to go. It gave me motion at a time when standing still felt unbearable. It did not cure my grief. Nothing cures that. But it gave me a way to keep moving forward. And then something strange happened. The worst tragedy of my life created the state of mind that allowed me to take the biggest professional risk of my life. I left Providence Equity Partners. I gave up a very comfortable career, a very good salary, a prestigious title, and the relative safety of being part of a large institution. And I had nothing. No job, no firm, no capital, no platform, no track record running schools. What I had was a vision and a strange new fearlessness that came from having already lost what mattered most. That is how Inspired began. Not from a perfect business plan, not from a 5-year strategy, not from a carefully managed career path. It began from grief, instinct, opportunity, and a refusal to keep living someone else's version of success. I found a school group in South Africa that was called Random House. I convinced its founder to sell it to me before I had the money to buy it. Then I had to go and find the money. I raised capital from family offices and investors. I insisted on terms that many people thought were ridiculous and actually were. But I did it because I knew something very clearly. If I was going out to build something, I had to build it my way. And it was not separate from my family. I've never believed in the artificial frontier between family, work, friends, purpose, and life. They're all connected. They bleed into each other. They shape each other. I have 3 amazing children. Everything I do in our schools, every campus I build, every summer camp I design, every sports field, every theater, every classroom, every program, I think about whether they would love it. Would they enjoy this? Would they be inspired by this? Would this have made them better, stronger, more confident, happier children? But that is the point. Inspired was never just a company to me. It became part of how I rebuilt my life, part of how I rebuilt my family, part of how I tried to turn pain into something useful. That was 2013. Today, Inspired educates around 95,000 students across more than 125 schools on 6 continents. We employ 15,000 people. We operate in countries and cultures all over the world. And yet, in many ways, I still run the company with the same mindset I had at the beginning. Move fast, stay close to the details, obsess over quality, avoid bureaucracy, and never delegate the soul of the organization. Recently, people started calling this founder mode. I laughed when I first saw the phrase, because I realized that someone had finally given a respectable name to what many people had spent years accusing me of doing wrong. Founder mode means you care too much to be distant. It means you do not believe that leadership is sitting in a corner office waiting for filtered information to arrive. It means you go deep, you ask uncomfortable questions, you skip levels when necessary, you know the details, you trust people, but you verify. You move quickly. You refuse to let bureaucracy become a substitute for judgment. Is it always comfortable? No. Do people always like it? Definitely not. But if you're building something that matters, comfort is not the objective. Impact is. But there's another part of founder mode that people often miss. Founder mode is not just about control. It's not just about speed. It's not just about being demanding. It's about caring. You care about the product, you care about the mission, you care about the culture, and most importantly, you care about the people. You care about who you hire, you care about whether they grow, you care about whether they become better because they work with you. You care enough to train them, challenge them, push them, protect them, and sometimes, often, tell them the truth when nobody else will. There are many extremely intelligent, highly successful people who are fundamentally selfish. They may make money, they may have good careers, but they will never be great founders because people will not truly trust them. And without trust, you cannot build anything that lasts. Companies are not built in boardrooms. They are built in corridors, classrooms, receptions, playgrounds, offices, and visits. They are built through thousands of human interactions where people decide consciously or unconsciously whether they trust you, whether they believe you, whether they think you care. And this is another message I want to leave with you. Do not confuse professional success with a checklist. Many of you will leave here with impressive opportunities, consulting, banking, private equity, technology, and so on. The logos will be strong, the salaries may be attractive, your parents may finally understand what you do for a living or pretend to. Achievement is not the same as fulfillment. Optionality is not the same as purpose. Prestige is not the same as freedom. For years, I chased success in the way ambitious people are taught to chase it. Better institutions, better titles, better compensation, bigger deals. But I only really found meaning when I built something that was mine and that mattered beyond me. Education did that. It gave me a mission. It connected my professional life with something human. Every school we acquire, every campus we build, every improvement in academic results, every child whose confidence grows, every student who gets into a university they once thought beyond reach, that matters. Not because it appears in an investor presentation, but because it changes lives. That's the privilege of building something real. And many of you will have that opportunity, whether as entrepreneurs, investors, leaders, or citizens. But you will need courage. Not theoretical courage, real courage. The courage to leave a prestigious job when it's killing your spirit. The courage to start again when the world thinks you are mad. The courage to bet on others before others, to bet on yourself before others believe in you. The courage to walk away from money when the terms are wrong. The courage to fail publicly. And perhaps most importantly, the courage to choose a life that is yours. Not one designed to impress people whose opinions should not matter. Jim Carrey said in his commencement speech that you can fail at what you do not want, so you might as well take a chance on doing what you love. I've seen many people fail at jobs they did not even want. They chose safety, and safety did not protect them. They chose prestige, and prestige did not fulfill them. They chose the path everyone admired, and then woke up one day wondering whose life they were living. Do not do that. Do not live too cautiously. And I do not mean behave recklessly. I mean live fully. Enter the arena. Be willing to look slightly mad. Be willing to do things that others think are strange, if those things really reflect who you are. One of the schools I acquired came about in a way that no MBA textbook would recommend. The founder of a school in Peru that I was trying to acquire was walking me around his school. We walked into the gymnasium, that was equipped with all sorts of gym equipment, including a 16-meter rope hanging from the ceiling. I challenged my much younger team members to climb it, but they all just laughed it off. So I proceeded to climb it wearing my suit and tie. The owner was on the floor laughing like I was completely nuts. And the students in the gym didn't understand what they were looking at. The founder agreed to sell me his school the same day. Was that a formal acquisition strategy? No. Would McKinsey recommend it in a PowerPoint? Probably not. But that moment mattered. It showed him something about me. Energy, competitiveness, madness perhaps, but also commitment. I was not a detached financial buyer in a suit. I was fully there, fully engaged, fully myself. And that is how I have tried to live. Not by waiting for the perfect moment, not by hiding behind caution, not by asking whether every move is conventional, but by asking whether the life I'm living is actually worth living. Take risk, but take intelligent risk. Take risk when you have conviction, where you have done the work, where you are willing to endure pain, and where the upside is not only financial but personal. And when you fail, because you will, do not let failure become your identity. Some famous commencement speakers spoke about failure as something that stripped away the inessential, and about connecting the dots only backwards. Both ideas are true. Failure is painful, but it's also clarifying. It shows who your real friends are. It shows you what you actually care about. It shows you whether you were chasing substance or applause. It removes illusion. And adversity does something even more important. It introduces you to yourself. You do not fully know who you are when everything is going well. Anyone can look composed when the deal closes, the bonus lands, the company grows, the marriage works, the children are healthy, and the world applauds. You discover who you really are when the deal collapses, when the doctor gives you the worst possible news, when the job disappears, when people betray you, when your plan burns to the ground. That is when your real character appears. And character matters far more than intelligence. You're all intelligent. You would not be sitting here otherwise. But intelligence alone is overrated. The world is full of intelligent people who achieve very little because they lack courage, discipline, resilience, judgment, generosity, or the ability to deal with people. At INSEAD, you have been surrounded by smart people. But when you leave here, you will discover that being smart is merely the entry ticket. The real differentiators are stamina, adaptability, emotional intelligence, speed of learning, the ability to build trust, and the willingness to do what others will not. When I think about my own life, Beirut, London, Washington, New York, INSEAD, banking, private equity, loss, desperation, grief, inspired, the pattern was never linear. I grew up moving between countries because of war. I was far from being the perfect student. I was often told I could do better. I hated school for much of my childhood. And then somehow, I ended up founding a global school group. You cannot connect those dots forward, only backwards. So, to the graduates of today, I will not tell you to follow your plan. I will tell you to follow your energy. Pay attention to what gives you intensity. Pay attention to what makes you impatient. Pay attention to the problems you cannot stop thinking about. Pay attention to the moments when you feel most alive, even if they are uncomfortable. That is usually where your real path begins. And as you go forward, remember a few things. First, life will not go according to plan. That is not a flaw in life. That is life. Second, failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of the architecture of success. Third, when tragedy or adversity comes, and I hope it comes gently, do not waste the pain. Use it. Let it deepen you. Let it sharpen your sense of what matters. Let it make you braver, not harder. Fourth, do not live too cautiously. A life designed only to avoid failure is itself a failure. Fifth, care about people, not performatively, not because it sounds good in a speech. Actually care. Ask about families, train people, push people, forgive people, help them become better. No founder, no leader, no institution, and no life of real meaning can be built on selfishness alone. 6, build something, a company, a family, a school, a fund, a product, a movement, a reputation, a life, but build something that carries your fingerprints. And finally, remember that success is not what you accumulate, it is what remains when everything else is stripped away. Your degree is a key in your pocket. My father used to say that to me, and it annoyed me enormously. Now, of course, I say it to my children, because this is what happens. As we get older, we become the people who annoyed us. But the key is not enough. You still have to decide which doors are worth opening. You still have to walk through them. You still have to deal with what is on the other side. Today, you leave INSEAD with one of the best keys in the world. Use it well, use it boldly, use it not merely to become successful, but to become useful. Use it to build, to take risks, to create value, to help others, and to live a life that is genuinely yours. And when life tests you, because it will, remember that the test is not the end of your story. Very often, it's the beginning of the chapter that matters most. Congratulations to the INSEAD MBA class. I wish you courage, resilience, good judgment, unreasonable ambition, deep humanity, and just enough failure to set you free. Thank you.
Well, Nadim, you can see what the audience took from your speech. It is, of course, incredibly courageous to relive your most painful moment in front of 1,000 people, and then to show how that moment helped make you who you are today. Thank you for doing that, for finding the courage to help us learn how to move forward. So thank you once again.